You might be wondering how much can you get away with in a game of chess? Can you win without a queen? Can you win without guarding your king? Can you win without pushing your pawns? The answer in my opinion is that it depends on how good you are versus how good your opponent is. So I decided in this video to test that out. I'm hopping into the 400 elo pool on chess.com and see if I can win a game of chess without moving my queen. Game starts with e4, e5, I develop my knight, opponent does something weird here, I don't understand. I play very natural moves, natural development moves, develop the bishop, opponent also fianchetto his bishop, and now I develop my knight here, and I'm thinking here about rerouting my knight and eventually opening up the rook for some lines of attack. Do keep in mind I can't move my queen in this game. Now, opponent tries to trade my bishop, I don't see any issue with it, so I ignore it and try and open up the center. He takes with the queen, which I find not very good, so I attack his queen with my knight, and here he blunders. The best move here, you can try and pause the video to find it. The move is knight c7. Now, the best move here is to move the queen away, but he hangs his queen, which is a worse blunder. I try to trade pieces here, but the game isn't over, because I can't move my queen, and technically it's almost equal if we consider that there's no queens in the board. Here I try and attack his knight. I'm thinking how I can get my rook into the game. Considering I can't move the queen, it's really hard to get both rooks into the game. So I was thinking how I can do that. He moves his knight back, logical move. I decide to protect my pawn with the bishop. I keep my rook on the a file because I want to launch the pawn up eventually and open up that file. So that's why I decided to protect the pawn with the bishop instead of the rook. The opponent here makes a move that doesn't make sense. The bishop isn't doing anything on that diagonal. I'm threatening here to fork him with the b pawn. He blunders that, so I take that. He takes back with the bishop, I take back. He moves his horse just for me to trade easier, and I trade everything. Now things are advantageous for me, because even without a queen, this position is considered an advantage for me. I notice here that my rook and my pawn can be forked, so I move my rook back. I'm also thinking about moving my knight away to open up the rook. Things are going very well. Okay, now here he gives me a free pawn, calculation mistake, and this is just horrible by my opponent. The game continues. He doesn't take immediately, which is understandable, and I can take, of course, I can't take back with the queen. If he takes my rook, I will have to take with the king. That's why I took the pawn. He decides to take back. I decide to trade some more pieces because I have the advantage even without the queen. I have more pawns ultimately, and my opponent doesn't know that I can't move the queen, so maybe that was also an advantage. Maybe I should have messaged him and said I can't move my queen. I put my knight on a more active square, try and fork him. Of course, game is not over. That queen that is on the board is basically useless. I did not move it at all, and he has a bishop for a knight. I take the pawn, attacking the rook. He attacks my knight. I move it to safety. He attacks back, and this is dealt with thankfully by just moving my knight to the f3 square, protecting the square on h2. Otherwise it would have been really dangerous. Opponent gives me another free pawn. It's like he's just trying to give away the game. Yeah, I know he can take that pawn, and I allowed it because I'm trying to finish the game. He checks me again. I block with the knight. He attacks my rook with his bishop, and I can't take because I'm pinned, so it's not a blunder. I decide to protect the pawn and move my rook one square to the right. I thought about moving my rook up, trying to get it into the game, into a more active place, but I wanted to protect the pawn, just in case he decides to take it with the king. I will also try and move my king and unpin my knight to threaten his bishop on the next move. I unpin my knight. The opponent here thinks that he's threatening something. I don't know what he's thinking because that square is protected by the horse. I move my rook up, get a more active square. And here he just decided to hang his rook and he resigns the game. He just thought that I had a queen up or something, I don't know. And game review gives me a brilliant, which is great. And that's all I have for you for this video. It's a short one. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts, and bye.